I am way behind in terms of telling you who the sponsors are of this show. When I say sponsors, these are the people who bought us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod. So here we go. Pete B, 5 coffees. 5 coffees from Moosey Bill. Janine Craybill bought us a coffee. Mitzi Y buys us a coffee every single month at the sponsee level. Aaron bought us a coffee, and Chuck S. from Wisconsin bought us 3 coffees. I am so sorry that I have not talked about those who are sponsoring the show. These are people who help pay for things like our website, our recording system, the ability to do remote guest interviews, and it sounds like we're in studio. If you find value in this show, I invite you, go to buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod so that you too can help sponsor the show. Thank you.
Is the Sober Friends Podcast.
Right in the middle of the holidays between Christmas, Hanukkah, and New Year's, and whatever holiday you choose to celebrate. And if you don't choose to celebrate a holiday, welcome to the Sober Friends Podcast. My name is Matt J. I'm your host, and I want to talk a little bit this week on what motivates me in sobriety. Maybe you're brand new. We put this show out for people who are brand new sober. That's the idea, is that we share the message to somebody who is sober curious or has hit that bottom and decided, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's also for people like me who have strung together a couple of days and want to continue to get sober, just find meaning and purpose in hearing other people's stories. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I thought about this recently, like, what's the thing that motivates me? I'm going to be sober in March, 11 years, God willing. So what motivates me? Because in the day-to-day, alcohol has not been a part of my life for so long, and I have a social circle that basically doesn't drink. So where are the pitfalls for me? And I'm sure there are, but I think about it, I'm like, I don't know. I've kind of created habits where I address things as I go along the way. And when you have a certain length of sobriety, things can get stale. You can feel unmotivated at times. You're not going to drink, but it just feels like it's not as urgent as it used to be when you got sober. So I thought about what is keeping me sober, or what gets me excited again about sobriety and recovery. You know what it is? It's always been new people. People who are 4 days sober, 17 days sober, 100 days sober. Those are the people who motivate me the most. Here's why. The reason that they motivate me is it's still brand new. And it helps me remember where I was when I was newly sober, because you forget so much. Look, in anything, they say that people who are alcoholics have a built-in forgetter. And I've also heard that you have to renew your recovery regularly, because it's like pouring water into a bucket with a quarter-size hole in the bottom. It just keeps falling out. I think that's definitely true of alcoholics, that we forget the bad times. But I also think the human mind is in such a place where you forget, you only remember the good times, and you have to work really hard. And you think about that time you were drinking, that it was a good time. You don't remember the hangover the next day or the regret. You just remember those good times there, or in any situation. And now that you have some space, or I have some space between when I got sober and where I am now, I just think the year in and year out, the meetings I've gone to, the times that I've spoken at open meetings or open speaker meetings, a speaker getting up and sharing your story. And I almost can time it to, okay, these guys were there and it was this time of year. And that makes it feel like it's always been a part of life. It's how I feel about my dogs. I can't remember life before having the dogs. I can't remember life before having kids. It just feels like it always was. And in recovery, it feels like it always was, but it wasn't. When I first came in, I went to a lot of AA meetings for a pretty significant period of time. And I came in with some people who were new, and some of those people stayed, some of those people didn't. And it felt like the only people who were coming in were people who had relapsed. So it felt like for the longest time, I am always going to be the new guy. I could have 10, 20, 30 years. Nobody's coming in behind me. I was the last person to get sober. And that felt very discouraging to me. Now, in reality, I was just impatient. But I felt really discouraged at that time. So after getting sober for a while and you actually saw an honest to goodness, brand new person coming in, well, that was very motivating. It's like, oh, it's a new guy that I'm not the new guy anymore, because I really was working hard at being the older guy. Someday I wanted to be that crotchety old guy. Not really, but I wanted to have some elevated status because I still had quite a bit of pride. Now I don't care. It's not really about me being the oldest guy in the room. I just want to handle my issues so I don't drink. And when I help other people, it's still for me. All of these things are still for me. I just want to stay sober. And when I feel better, I'm probably not going to drink. So I like to chase after that euphoria of feeling better about myself. So when new people come on in and they share, it makes me feel good. And it makes me feel a lot of hope that I'm going to see them around and they're going to be that next guy who has 10 years. A lot of times people don't stick. And that's the sorrow I also feel when I see people face to face who are coming in. I'm like, I hope that you are going to stay, but history has also told that a lot of those people will fall out. I have felt a renewed sense of sobriety, or that feeling of being excited again about recovery, by going on TikTok. I'm pretty new to TikTok. I've been doing some stuff on Instagram. I put shorts if I can keep it under a minute, which is really tough on YouTube. When Steve's not here, I'll record video and I'll put it up on YouTube. But I don't know, it's kind of flat on Instagram, but I see lots of people talking sobriety on TikTok. And the people who I really get the most out of are not the people with the biggest accounts. I like to follow the people who have like 200 follows, 400 follows, less than 1,000. Those are often brand new people, and I like to hear their raw and unfiltered stories. When I was brand new, well, let me back up a second. This is one of these things in AA that I don't agree with. You may think differently, but I don't agree with this. There was a time, there are some meetings where if you have like less than a year of sobriety, you are told, don't raise your hand, don't share. Take the cotton balls out of your ears and stick them in your mouth. Now, first of all, that's gross, because if you've had cotton balls in your ears for a long period of time, there's probably a lot of earwax there, and that's not good eats. I don't want to taste that. I don't want that going down my throat. It's just something vile. The meetings I went to, they were old timers who were a little gruff, but they had a motto of, look, I'm 30 years sober. Everybody's heard what I have to say over and over and over again. But if the brand new people don't raise their hand and speak, how am I going to get to know them? So I need to hear from you, because I'm going to get more out of that. And that hit me hard. That was always something with me of, I totally get with that. If somebody is newer than me and you want to speak, you go before me. If you run out of time and everybody who has a week sober wants to speak and I don't, that's better, because you're going to help me and you're going to give me an opportunity to get to know you. So I took that to heart early on in meetings, and I raised my hand all the time. And what I heard from people is, it's okay just to jump on and say, hey, my name is Matt. I'm sober. I don't know what to say, but I'm here. And I'm glad you're here too, because you can get to know people. So someone like me, an introvert, especially at that time, not a lot of self-esteem, scared of everybody, thinking nobody's going to like me, nobody's going to accept me. I had problems with, I'm not going to be accepted here because I don't have as bad of a story as somebody else. I was a lot more high functioning than other people. So they're going to roll their eyes at me. It's how I felt going into a treatment center. I never went to a treatment center. So how is somebody here going to get anything out of what I'm saying? That's terrible, terrible thinking. But what it did is it gave me permission for me, if I could speak and tell people about me, then there's a rapport. And people would come up to me and say, "Oh, Matt, hey, you said something really great last week. You should say that again." I learned, this is how I learned. AA has these, I've talked about some things that I don't know if I like this, but this is one of these things that a lot of really good people in AA do. And that is when a newcomer speaks, going up, giving them a pat on the back and talking to them a little bit. I was sure, because I had such a level of cockiness, I guess, when people come over and say, "Hey, you said something really great there," that I thought I was really connecting with these people. And in reality, it was, they knew I was a new person and they wanted to encourage me. But because I kept talking, it gave people an opportunity to come to me, because I struggled with being too afraid to talk to other people. And once I got a positive response and saw that people would want to talk to me, then it gave me confidence to go talk to other people. And that helped me build connections. And I really suck at this in the real world of going and meeting new people. Like if there's an offsite at work, I just assume nobody wants to talk to me, that I am a big bucket of crap and nobody's going to want to talk to me. But I got a lot of practice going to 12-step groups and speaking and opening my mouth. And it gave me permission, it gave me confidence to take a service commitment of being the door greeter or to be the chairperson. And that made me more comfortable, because, so if you're brand new and you go to 12-step meetings and they still have door greeters, which many meetings do not, at least in the Northeast, do it. Because if you go for a full month and you're a door greeter, you are going to get to know every single person who comes regularly, because you have to shake their hand and give them a hug on the way in. That is a great way to get to know people, especially if you're like me, you're shy, you're introverted, and you just, I don't know if it's necessarily I'm scared of people, but in a social situation, my ability to speak goes away. I don't know what to say to people. If you put a microphone in front of me and you tell me that this is a performance, I know how to speak, but if I have to do it one-to-one, I'm completely inept and clueless. So getting out in front of people and getting to be a door greeter helped me a lot, because I get to know people. And then on the flip side, as I got more sobriety, seeing people take my place as the new guy, that helped me. And there are things that help me at a time there are things that help me for a time that have kind of faded. But I'll tell you the thing that has never, ever stopped working to motivate me. And that is interacting with brand new people. So I do my best. It's like I go on TikTok and I feel like I'm doing some work. That it is very purposeful that I'll go in there. I want to see people who, if they're hurting, I want to find a way that I can leave a comment to show that I've been there, I'm empathizing, I'm rooting for you. If they've done something great, I want to find a way to jump in there and congratulate them and just give them something, even if it's nothing more than a heart. Sometimes it feels like work, because I'm not doing this particularly for me right now. I just want to go through, watch some videos, listen to their story, and jump into the comments to say something nice to them, because it makes me feel really good to share that message with somebody else. And if somebody did that for me, even today, you left me a nice note, I'm going to feel great about it. It's something that's really going to help me back. There are a few things that always give me a charge. If I go on somebody's podcast and share the message, I get charged up. If I go to a speaker meeting and I'm the speaker, I got butterflies, but I love doing that. And then interacting with new people. Those are sort of the things that have never gone out of style, that it still feels like the first day. Other things that I've done, like chairing a meeting and stuff, taking service commitments, I like doing it, but I'm kind of confident in that. But talking to somebody new, I want to kind of leave you with something here. If you're afraid to raise your hand and speak, don't. If somebody gives you a hard time about it, it's their problem. Don't take it personal. And if you got a whole meeting full of people who are rah, 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 then you need to go find another meeting. There's so many meetings out there. There are bad meetings. I've heard people say, "Oh, there's no bad meeting." For me, there can be bad meetings. Just reality. There can be bad meetings out there. So I go and find meetings that I like, or I make phone calls, or I go on TikTok. There are the 12 traditions, and there are 12 tradition people who say we need to keep this off of social media. I don't agree. I think it's how you put yourself out there. If you're running a podcast, you kind of have to go on social media and get yourself out there to get some promotion. I know there's attraction. There's our public relations policy is attraction rather than promotion. But that doesn't work if you're running a podcast. I got to get the word out there. And I think we have a really good podcast. So you got to go on social media. There is also the situation where you may not hear about an alcoholic from a TV. So for you kids who are under 40, there used to be a thing called TV movies where they had like a movie of the week, and it would like be Meredith Baxter is an alcoholic. She's drinking vanilla extract tonight at 8 p.m. only on NBC. So it'd be like something like that. And that might be your experience with what recovery is. There's no TV movies anymore. And I think anybody under 40 is not watching TV, but they're going to TikTok. They're going to Instagram. They're going to YouTube. They're going to X, Blue Sky. And so having a picture of somebody who is getting sober or has been sober and what they've done to stay sober could be that thing that is going to be your role model. It's a medium just like a book was in the 1930s. Bill would have had a TikTok account now, and he'd try to have at 100,000, he'd be doing live TikToks all the time. And he'd want to have 1 million followers to get his message out because he was a shameless self-promoter. So if you're questioning it, don't do it if you're really, really vulnerable that this could cause you to drink. But if you think I'm willing to commit to this, I think there is something to be said of getting out there, put your face and your voice out there so that people can see you, that you can be the type of sobriety that other people want to be. This is not about having perfect sobriety. Nobody has it. You know what good sobriety is? You're not drinking and life feels pretty good. If you've done that, however you've gotten to that, that's right. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd love for you to follow us on the major platforms. I'm everywhere except for X because X is gross. Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. The handle is always at Sober Friends Pod. I write up a newsletter each week that is kind of like the blog version of what the topic is, and it may veer off from what you hear here. Was that good grammar? I don't know if it was. My website is soberfriendspod.com. Please sign up for our newsletter. You won't regret it. And give me an email, reach out directly. I love hearing from you. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me from thinking I'm crazy and that I'm not talking into a microphone in my basement to nobody. All right, that's it. Happy New Year, everybody. Dry January's coming up. For us who are sober, it just means it's another day. Until then, we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.